Haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samich Gimel Mid Aleph. Starting Daf Samich Beis Amud Beis, 9 lines from the bottom. Our Gemara continues to speak about the two he-goats that are brought on Yom Kippurim. One that goes la'azazel and the other one as a korban chatos. The Gemara brings a brisa in conjunction with these two he-goats if they're shechted outside of the azara. We know shchutei chutz, when korbanos are shechted outside the azara, if it's done b'mezid, it carries with it a punishment of kares, b'shoigeg, the punishment of chatos. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon, Shnei Seir Yom Kippurim sheshachtan bachutz. Two of the seirim that are shechted outside, Ad shelo higril aleim chayiv al shneim. If the hagrala was not yet done, then he'll be chayiv for both shechting of the two seirim. Mishehigril aleim chayiv al shel shem upot al shel azozel. But when it comes to the hagrala being done, he would only be chayiv for the one that's slated to be la Hashem. Since la'azazel cannot be brought inside the Beis HaMikdash, is designated to be sent out, so by shechting it outside would not be a prohibition of shchutei chutz. Ad shelo higril aleim, asked the Gemara, chayiv al shneim lemay chazu. In the first of the two dinim, that you said that he's going to be chayiv before the hagrala was done on both of them, so granted, they both have kedusha when they were acquired, but they're not fitting to be brought inside the Beis HaMikdash because no hagrala was done. So why should be chayiv for both of them? They're not fitting yet. Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Chisda, Hoyil v'roi l'si'ir hanase bechutz. Since Hoyil, they are both fitting to be brought as a korban musaf, which a he-goat is brought as. It's referred to here as nase bachutz. That's relative to the seir that is brought inside, both in the Kodesh HaKadoshim and the Heichal. Here it's brought outside in the Azara as a korban musaf. Since both of these he-goats, before the Hagrala, doesn't require a hagrala to be brought as a korban musaf, therefore it would be chayiv for shchutei chutz, both of them. Ask the Gemara, "Ma'ishno l'siyah nase b'fnim deloy the mechuza hagrala." Why did we say before that when there was no hagrala, so then the reason why you can't be chayiv for shchutei chutz for the seer that is going to be brought inside is because it's not yet designated, it's not yet fitting. So ask the Gemara, l'siyah nase b'chutz nami loy chazi the chamechasrei avodas hayoim. So now, how can you mechayev shchutei chutz for those that can be then a korban musaf? The korban musaf also cannot be brought now because the avodas hayoim is not yet done. Other things have to be done before the korban musaf, and therefore, since other things have to be done, it's not yet fitting to be a korban musaf. So how can you tell me when you shecht the two seirim, they're going to be chayiv for shchutei chutz because they could be? It's hoyel v'roi and fitting to be as a korban musaf. It's not yet fitting to be korban musaf because the korban musaf cannot yet be brought. Answers the Gemara, Kesover Rav Chisda, Ein mechusar zman leboy bayoim. Since that later on during the day it will become fitting, the fact that it's premature, that it does not make it so that it's going to be something that is not going to be fitting. Omar Ravina. Ravina now says, Hashta do Omar V'chista. Mechusar hagrola b'mechusar ma'aseh dami. He says that although it's not intrinsic to the he-goats, the hagrola, but since it's a mitzvah connected to them, therefore it's lacking the hagrola. It makes it so that it's also a mechusar ma'aseh. It's missing in a ma'aseh. Then Hoda Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Shlomim sheshachtan kodim sheniftechu l'dilasos haheichel psulin. Then that which Shmuel said, that a korban shlomim that is shechted before the doors of the heichal are opened, that would be posel. Shenamar, it brings a posuk ushchatoi pesach al moed in conjunction with the shchita of the korban shlomim. It states that it will be shechted in the pesach in the entrance way of the Ol Moed. Bizman shehu pasuach v'lo bizman shehu nol, which is masha while it's open and not when it's closed. Shachtan b'chutz koydin sheniftechu dlasois hahechel potter. And therefore, on top of Samach Gimel at Aleph, we can say if it's shechted outside before the doors of the Heichal are opened, then it will be potter, since it's not going to be a designated korban for bifnim. And as we more explains now, my time, why would it be potter? The fact that it's not yet opened, it's like it's lacking in a maisa. And therefore, it does not have the designation of being something that's roy to be brought inside. And since not roy to be brought inside, it's not going to be chayiv for shchutei chutz. Now the Gemara challenges that which Rabbi Chisda said before. Rabbi Chisda said before, the reason why the two seirim that are shechted, even before the hagrala, will be chayiv for shchutei chutz, is because they could be fitting, hoyil v'roi, since they would be fitting to be offered as a korban musaf. Ask the Gemara, Umi Islay the Rav Chisda hoyil. Does Rav Chisda ascribe to this shita of hoyil, this opinion that you can say since hoyil, and therefore mechayiv shchutei chutz? Ve'omar Rav Chisda, behold, we have a statement that Rav Chisda made. Pesach sheshachtoi bachutz. If a person shechs a korban pesach not during its designated time, which is Yud Daled B'Nisan in the Ben Harboim, but rather sometime during the year, and he shechs it sometime during the year, according to Rav Chisda, if he does it lishmoi for the sake of korban pesach, he's potter. Shaloi lishmoi, he's going to be chayiv. Ask the Gemara, taima the shaloi lishmoi, that's when he's going to be chayiv. Hostama, but if it's stam, lishmoi hu potter, it will be lishmoi, l'shem korban pesach, and it will be potter. Ask the Gemara, v'amai, according to Rav Chisda, if you say hoyel, leimo hoyel v'roi shelo lishmoi mifnim, you should say, since it could be shaloi lishmoi, so therefore it should be chayiv. So why do you make the distinction by saying if it's lishmoi, it's potter? Shaloi lishmoi is chayiv. Why? Even shalishmoi should be going to be also chayiv, because you should say hoyel, since it could be shalol lishma, it should be also then for chayiv. The Gemara says hachi hashda. How can you compare the two? Hasam bo yakira. Over there, in the case of the korban pesach, it needs an akira. You need to actually designate it to be a korban shlomim, and if you don't do so, then the stam remains a korban pesach, whereby you won't have a chiv shchutei chutz because you cannot bring a korban pesach bifnim. However, over here, loy boy akira. But over here, in regards to the seirim, they're both going to be a chatos. So therefore, it's going to be valid, and therefore we'll say hoyel. Rabba bar shimi masni luhu b'derabba. The Gemara brings Rabba bar shimi. He taught in this name of Rabba. Now, the entire shakla v'tar, the entire thing that we just said now, right now, in regards to Rav Chisda, that he taught it in the name of Rabba. The kashile de Rabba, he therefore had a question on Rabba. Umeshani kideshaninon, and he answered like we answered it. In other words, the same question that he had, that he said that Rav Chisda, right? We said that Rav Chisda said that the two seirim that are shechted before the hagrala is going to be chayiv shchutei chutz. And then we ask the contradiction, does really Rav Chisda say hoyel? Is it so? After all, we see that Rav Chisda says that when it comes to a korban pesach throughout the year, if it's lishmoi, is going to be potter. To which we answer the chiluk, that when it comes to the case of the seirim on Yom Kippurim, they're both korban chatos. And therefore, it's enough for not to be, he doesn't have to make an akira. But in the case of korban pesach, even though if he makes an akira, it's valid, but over here he didn't make an akira. You can't say that it's the Shem Pesach and say that it's going to then work as a shlomim. So therefore, the same teaching that we just said in the Rav Chisda, he said in the Rav Rabba. Gemara now records, Ki also Rav Dimi, when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omar Rabbi Yirmiyahu, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, he said the name Rabbi Yirmiyahu, who said the name of Yochanan, Pesach sheshachtu bachutz b'shar yemos hashana bein lishmoi, bein shelo lishmoi, potter. One who shechs the carbon Pesach outside of the Azorah, outside the Beis HaMikdash, when it's during the rest of the year, whether he does so lishma or shaloi lishma, whether Shem Pesach or the Shem Shlomim, he's going to be potter. Rav Dimi, Amrisa l'shmaise kamei de Rabbi Yirmiyahu. I said this teaching before Rabbi Yirmiyahu. Bishlama l'shmoi dahaloi chazili. I understand when he checks the Korban Pesach, l'shem Korban Pesach, he's not going to be chayiv for shchutei chutz, because not fitting. You wouldn't be able to then bring a Korban Pesach inside the Beis HaMikdash. Ela shaloi lishmoi amai. But if he does it shaloi lishmoi, why should that not be then fitting inside the Beis HaMikdash? Should then be chayiv also for shchutei chutz? Hachazi shaloi lishmoi b'fnim. V'amar li, Rabbi Yirmiyahu responded, Akira chutz lav shma akira. He says that the akira of chutz, that's not going to be an akira. And therefore, although if a person shechs the shem shlomim, normally that will then be valid as a carbon, but in terms of outside, to say it's a shem shlomim, that he can't do. And therefore, it's not going to be chayav for shchutei chutz. So we have now Rav Dimi, who just explained that when he came back from Eretz Yisrael, he said that both, if he shechs the Korban Pesach, lishmoi v'shelo lishmo, they're both going to be poter v'shchutei chutz. Now Gemara records another version, ki oza Ravin, Rav Yirmiyahu Rabbi Yochanan. Ravin this time says the name of Rabbi Yirmiyahu, who said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, when he came back from Eretz Yisrael. And he said, Pesach sheshachto b'chutz. A Korban Pesach shechted outside of the Beis HaMikdash b'shar Yom HaShana ben lishmoi v'shelo lishmoi chayev. He says in both situations is going to be chayev, exactly opposite of what we just learned in the name of Rav Dimi. Va'afilu lishmoi asked the Gemara, even if he shechs it lishmoi, it's also going to be chayev for shchutei chutz when he shechs a korban l'shem Pesach. V'hatnan. The Gemara asks from a Mishnah, Mechusar zman bein biguvim bein bebailim. If something is premature, it's mechusar zman, whether it's the guf or the bailim. And the Gemara says, Ve'ezu mechusar zman bebailim. What's considered to be premature by the bailim? Hazov v'hazova v'hayoledet v'hamitzara sheikrivu chatos v'hashom bechutz pturim. If they were to bring their korban chatos or their korban asham prematurely, then it would be considered to be potter if they brought it bachutz, since these were choyvos and they could not bring it in bifnim. If they brought it bachutz, they would be potter. However, oiloseim v'shal meim bechutz chayavin. Their korban oilos and their korban shlomim, those, talking about a nazir as well, that would make it a shlomim, those which are nedavois, that would be chayiv bifnim. Therefore, if they shechted it bachutz, they would be chayiv as well. V'om Rab Chilkiya bar Tuvi lo yishonu ela lishmoi aval shaloi lishmoi chayiv. And Rab Chilkiya bar Tuvi makes a distinction. He says this is only talking about when it's lishmoi. Aval shaloi lishmoi is chayiv. So over here we're talking about because he did it, for example, as an oilo or shlomim. So therefore, if he did shaloi lishmoi, it would be chayiv. So the Gemara says lishmoi miha potter. The Gemara now built up his question. If he does it lishmo, however, it would be potter. Amai nemo hoyil veroin shelo lishmoi bifnim. Say that he can say hoyil, and if he can say hoyil, so since if he did shelo lishmoi, it would be chayiv. So when he does lishmo, it should also be chayiv. The Gemara rejects this and says, Hachi hashto, is this a good comparison? Hasom boy akira. Over there requires akira. Hacha pesach b'shari mosashona shlomim ninhu. But over here, in regards to Korban Pesach, the rest of the year, it's a shlomim. In other words, this is now changing our understanding from before. This is saying that the rest of the year, a Korban Pesach is memela, is automatically a Korban shlomim. If it's not l'shem Pesach, and you don't have to then uproot it, you don't have to come on to even hoyel. So therefore, there's a distinction, and that's why when it comes to Korban Pesach, bein lishma, bein shaloi lishma, the Gemara says before that if he does it for shchutei chutz, he's going to be chayiv. Rav Ashi Masni Chayiv Kida Amrinon. Rav Ashi, he teaches that which we just said in the name of Ravin, that's going to be Chayiv, Ben Lishma, Ben Shalol Lishma. Because of what we're saying, that the Korban Pesach is Memela going to be something that's going to be, that is going to be, the Shem is going to be a Shlomim. Rav Yirmi Midifti Masni Potter. Rav Yirmi Midifti, he teaches Potter. Ben Shema, Ben Shalol Lishma is going to be Potter, like we saw before, named Rav Dimi. Kisover Pesach b'shar Yemois Hashana bo yakira, v'akira chutz lav shma akira, because he says a Korban Pesach throughout the rest of the year requires akira. In regards to the shchutei chutz outside the Beis Hamikdash, you're not able to then make the designation, so therefore it's going to be potter even shalol lishma. Uplider Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi, and this argues on Chilkiah bar Tuvi, who says that you could make the akira in Ashami, Akira and Asham. Therefore, you could also make the Akira in Gabe a Korban Pesach. And therefore, he would say, if it's going to be Lishma, it would be Potter, but Shaloi Lishma would be Chayiv.